Welcome all of you for the second session of Indian economic development, and where we are having the first chapter of Indian economy on the eve of independence. See students, in the last section we have taken the introduction level and we have taken our economy before the arrival of Britishers, after the arrival of Britishers, and we have seen the features of Indian economy. Now we are going to see what was the condition of Indian economy from six segments that we have told you last year also. First of all, we are going to see from the agriculture point of view, then industrial sector point of view, then foreign sector point of view, then infrastructure sector point of view, then occupational sector, and finally demographic sector. Starting with the agricultural sector, that was the prime sector for our economy as always. See, there are main features of the agricultural sector that we have employed more than 50% population, or we can say more than 75% population was engaged in the agriculture sector. Despite so much employment, the production and productivity was considerably or extremely low. Since there was no HYV fields, there were no proper harvesting tools, or there are many other factors that were responsible for the low production and productivity of the agriculture sector. Some are there was a prevailing zamindari system that we know to be as land revenue system, where the zamindar used to charge extremely high amount of revenue from the tiller or from the farmers who are doing the ultimate job on the agriculture sector or on the farm. So if we talk about the agriculture sector, we say there was a low production productivity, heavy dependence on the rainfall because there were no provision for the bore well, or there were no provision for the tube well for which we can derive the water facility. Also, there were very low amount of wells, water wells that were existing at that time. Then I told you there were absence of HYV seeds and harvesting tools. Then the most important that decay in the agriculture sector was land revenue system. The Britishers had appointed several zamindars or several landowners to just charge huge amount of rent or revenue from the farmers or the tillers. Tiller were the person who had been employed upon their own land by the farmers, and since due to illiteracy of the farmer that cost severely to them, and for this they need to give a huge amount of revenue to the zamindars, and out of which from the zamindar whatever the amount of revenue that is being collected by the zamindar, 60 to 80% would have been sent to the British government. So basically we can say they have been the appointed authorities from the British government. Then there was again a land fragmentation and small holdings. It means there were many cases where the land had been distributed to the family members, and since we used to say as divided the land or as there will be more small holdings, there will be the less fertility of the soil. If the land is having a major vast area of occupation without any subdivision, the fertility and cultivation will be rather more appropriate and more good. Then there was forced commercialization of crops. Since British want the raw materials such as jute, indigo and cotton to be there for manufacturing in their textile industries, they just want to produce a cotton based product, they just want to produce textile based products, so they need the huge amount of raw material in the form of jute, indigo, cotton, etc. So they force the farmer to just avoid making waste goods, for example wheat and cereal crops, and they just need to be forced to produce commercialized crop. So the farmer who were earlier reluctant to produce commercial crop, they were ultimately be bound to produce commercial crops, right? So we can say the agricultural sector was on a drain, and that was lead to a severe loss of productivity and production house, and the condition of farmer have considerably become more severe, as we can not compare and even we cannot measure the impact of the grief that they have felt and suffered. So the main concern was the agricultural sector, since it was occupying a major amount of population into it. Then comes to industrial sector. Industrial sector is say there was a prominent industry of art, that was handicraft industry, that have been destroyed or decayed by Britishers, as they don't want any prosperity to be existing in India after their occupation. So there was a decay of handicraft industry due to discriminatory policies that were followed, due to the disappearance of the princely estate. Since जब राजाओं महाराजाओं का जमाना था, जब वहाँ उनके दरबार लगा करते थे, जिनको हम princely estate कहते हैं, at that time whenever any person who was undergoing any handicraft product, whenever he used to make any exhibition of his handicraft product, the kings or prince used to be very happy with them, and they used to publicize their product all over the world, wherever they go. So, due to disappearance of the princely estate, due to discriminatory policy followed at that time by the Britishers, it led to the decay of handicraft industry. Completely spoiled the handicraft industry. That was a major concern and well-renowned industry in all over the world. Then come to competition with machine-based product. Since British East India Company and other companies have arrived into India and they were producing machine-based product, that gave the huge competition to our Indian handmade products. That's why it was a major concern for the Indian concern to suffer. That was a major concern for our Indian economy to suffer, because all the profit that they have built up, they have sent to the brigade. Then there were insignificant or absence of public sector and capital good industries. It means when there was no capital good industry except Tata and few more, therefore leading to a huge amount of labor intensive technique of production that were used to cater very less amount of goods, least qualitative goods, take huge time, be very costly. It just proved India industrial sector to a detriment or loss. Then rise in Western culture, as I told, that with the augmentation of British companies, they just introduced the shorts, trousers, suits, skirts, frocks. But here in India, we used to wear dhoti, kurta, pajama, salwar, suit, kurta. But as and when they introduced Western culture, more and more people of our Indian culture have been devoted with them. Even today, we can say in India, there is a huge culture of Western that has been applicable in current arena also. We used to wear basically Western outfit only. And today it is being said that the least the amount of cloth, huge the amount it will be costing. तो कहते हैं कि जितना छोटा कपड़ा उतना बड़ा ज़्यादा महंगा. That is what the fashion designer says. Now, then we have lack of interest. Means due to illiteracy, due to education, absence of education, due to lack of interest in the opening of the new firms and business, the industrial sector had to pay a huge amount of loss. Since there were great possibilities in India that a firm could have been established, but due to the investment and due to the fear of the Britishers, it was really very reluctant on the part of the people. Even on the good family background, they just don't want to express themselves a concern to open industries. So there was a lack of interest for the industrial sector to be opened by them. Then introduction of railways. Railways have been introduced for carrying the passengers as well as the raw material or goods from one place to another, from one state to another, but that was just made to serve only for the British purpose, not for Indian-based product or Indian passengers. So ultimately, the railways were introduced to benefit the British people, not to Indian people. For British transfer, British goods, not to Indian goods. Right? So these are basically the factors that decay the industrial sector as well, and then we can say this is the second segment of our Indian economy. Coming to foreign sector. Foreign sector, we say, as we told you that there was a decay of handicraft industry due to discriminatory tariff policy. What was the tariff policy they followed? They just make a huge amount of duty applicable on exported goods. It means whenever our Indian exporter would like to sell goods abroad, they need to pay huge amount of duties first of all to the British government, and then only they will be able to sell more. Ultimately, they are under so much of frustration and depression that they are not available with the handful of money in order to spare with their family, right? So the profit was a very far distant term to them. It means there are discriminatory policy lies that the exporter will become very dear and very expensive, and imports of raw material have been made imported of finished goods have been made quite cheap or reasonable. There was absence of duty, or there was a very least possible duty over imported finished product, but as and when we can say the export of raw material was under no duty, import of finished goods was under no duty, but export of handicraft product or finished product of India based concern was applicable for a huge amount of duty. So such discrimination being followed by the British government because they maintain the monopoly control over the international trade, because at that time when India was under the rule of British, our India or our Indian people were forced to deal with only British people or British concern. There was no other country from whom we can have international trade measures. It means there are several other countries who wanted to trade with us, but we have been restricted by the British government since we were under the colonial rule. Then, no doubt there was surplus BOP because we have just exported lot of raw material to Britain, and there was a import of ready-made product and finished goods also. But despite the fact also we had surplus BOP, but that BOP and whatever the wealth we have created out of it, but they all have been used for the British motives or selfish means only. Again we say at this time also, due to surplus BOP, due to this monopoly control and discriminatory policy, our foreign sector has suffered a lot. Fine. It means our own single industry, in the handicraft industry, have just decayed and destroyed completely by the British government. Coming to infrastructure lies in two forms, social and economic. Social infrastructure we are concerned about that it consisting of education, accommodation, health sector, whereas economic infrastructure is concerned with transportation, banking, power, communication, etc. So we can say there was a lack of facility of schools, colleges, absence of schools and colleges were there. People used to be get illiterated a lot. When we used to say that the person has just passed 10, he would have got the job. There are very few proportion of the people who could have graduated even. Today we say that graduation has no importance in our lives because we need to be very good in qualification. We must attain some professional qualification or post-graduation even. But in the earlier times when we were under colonialism or on the eve of independence, there was very less amount of education prevailing at that time. There were very less amount of hospitals, medical facilities, clinic, doctor, nurses at that time. There were very less amount of real estate or we can say housing facility at that time. People used to live in misery, completely misery with no mercy at all. So there was absence of social infrastructure as well as insignificant economic infrastructure, since as I told you, there was a railway communication force that were used exclusively for British motives and purpose. Passengers were deemed to be Britishers, goods to be transferred were of only Britishers. Our Indian people, Indian goods were barely restricted, they were completely restricted to transfer via railways. It means if we talk about infrastructure, India was under very significant role of infrastructure because they lack completely such facilities. Okay. Now we come to occupational structure. It means if we come to the employment sector, as I told you, more than 70 to 75% have been employed in agriculture sector. Manufacturing just 10%, since there was very low or insignificant amount of capital in the public sector undertakings. And service sector was just 17%. They too have employed in communication, ports, and some treasury associated services. That services were too very insignificant. Whatever the amount they have received as an employment was again totally insignificant for their livelihood, for their survival. इट मीन्स जो भी दिया जाता था एक तरीके से दान बख्शीश के रूप में दिया जाता था, जो उनकी कैपेबिलिटी के अनुसार मिलना चाहिए था लोगों को नहीं मिलता था, हमारे इंडियन पीपल को नहीं मिला करता था. We Indian have always been to be very hard working, very sincere in our performance. Even today we are, right? But we have not been paid suitably and reasonably at that point of time. So we can say occupational structure tells us the whole story, how we have been suffered throughout the period of British rule, and on the dawn of independence, the condition was again very miserable. Fine. So at the final stage, we are coming to demographic sector that tells a huge problem in India. That was at the dawn of independence, we are having high birth rate, 48 by 1000, means out of 1000 people, 48 used to die. Sorry, 48 birth was there in India. It means every 1000 people, 48 birth was there. There was a high birth rate. High death rate, it means for every 1000, 40 people used to die. It means we were just giving the birth and death side by side. Several times have been there when a child is born and instantly some family member has expired. Why so? Because our Indian people would have been malnutrited with the lack of facilities that we have discussed just now. The British government had just collapsed our Indian economic system to every extent. And I told you there was a lack of least or absence of social infrastructure, means there was the absence of medical facility, hospitals and proper equipment. So properly the medical or health measures. So we can say there was a high birth rate, high death rate, high birth rate 48 by 1000, high death rate 40 by 1000. These are the few statistics that I am producing in front of you. IMR, it is Indian mortality rate. So if we infant mortality rate. So infant mortality rate means whenever a child is born, out of 1218, a very huge amount, it means it is basically 21.8% infant used to die because of the lack of facility to survive. Today we have ventilators, today we have several facility to protect a child. But in the yesteryears of independence, infant mortality rate was 200 by 1000. Think over it, student, out of 1000 infants, 21% used to die. That was a severe condition of our Indian system. More severe was that low life expectancy. It means due to malnutrition, due to lack of health facilities, due to lack of survival opportunities, lack of employment opportunities, lack of food, whatsoever you can say, our survival rate was average of 32 years only. It means at the age of 32 years average, around many people used to end their life. Several farmers were there who used to get barely a single meal a day, and he needs to crop the field for over 200 to 500 acres. सोच के देखिए स्टूडेंट्स, अगर आज आपको 1 एकड़ खेत को जोतने के लिए बोला जाए और उसके लिए आपको सिर्फ एक हल दिया जाए और मैं आपको 2 बैल दे दूं, चलो राइट, भरी धूप के अंदर 1 दिन का खाना और आपको पूरा 1 एकड़ तो खेत है वो खुद अपने आप जोतना है विदाउट any facility of harvesting tools or tractors or equipment. सोच कर देखिए स्टूडेंट्स, think a while what will be the condition of yours at that time, and that what will lead to कि जब इतना proportion हमारा एग्रीकल्चर में था तो एक्सपेक्टेंसी तो लाइफ की लो हो गई थी. Fine. Then since our education was very less, there was a low literacy rate of around only 16%. 7% फीमेल की थी. That means आज भी क्या होता है स्टूडेंट, जो रूरल एरियाज है, देयर आर सेवरल रूरल एरियाज इन इंडिया, स्पेशली इन पंजाब, हरियाणा, राजस्थान, यूपी, एमपी. यहाँ पे आज भी गर्ल्स को कॉलेज में नहीं दिया जाता. दे जस्ट यूज टू reserve their female child at home. Girl are used to be in home, used to serve at home, and whenever she just attained the age of marriage, खटाक से उनकी शादी करके भेज देते. हैं. Even I am seeing and I have many cases around me where the child marriage is on the rise. जब बच्चों की शादी करते हैं तो कम से कम उनको इतना इक्विप्ड हो जाने दीजिए ताकि वो अपने हेल्थ वाइज, मेंटल वाइज, फिजिकल वाइज दे शुड बी कैपेबल ऑफ होल्डिंग द मैरिज. बट एज पर आवर रिचुअल्स, एज पर आवर ऑर्थोडॉक्स कस्टम्स, सुपरस्टिशियस बिहेवियर्स एंड रिडिकुलस ways of treating the girls, we haven't let this segment to rise. ये सब हमारे ऊपर ही डिपेंड करता है स्टूडेंट. दिस जस्ट ओज टू अस ओनली दैट वी हैव बीन फाइट फॉर ओवर 75 years of independence and still going on. कि हम आज भी कुछ 70 years of independence कि आज भी हम जब इंडिपेंडेंस की बात करते हैं तो आज़ादी तो मिली पर हमारी मानसिकता की आज़ादी आज भी नहीं मिली है. आज हम उतने ही छोटे हैं जितने पहले थे. सिंस द लिटरेसी रेट इज लो, लिटरेसी ऑफ फीमेल वाज कंप्लीटली लो. आज भी कहते हैं बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ. वाई? क्योंकि हमेशा प्रिविलेज बेटों को मिला है, हमेशा डोमिनेंस मेल्स को मिला है, हमेशा जो बायस है, जेंडर बायस है, वो हमेशा मेंटेन रहा है इंडिया के अंदर. एंड दैट शुड नॉट हैपन. दैट हैव मेड आवर इंडिया इन अ वेरी स्लो प्रोग्रेस. जहाँ पे हम भगवान में देवियाँ खोजते हैं, राइट. सरस्वती आपकी देवी है, फीमेल है. लक्ष्मी फीमेल है, राइट. उनकी आरती की जाती है, दुर्गा की आरती की जाती है. तो इसका मतलब व्हाट वी आर डूइंग, वी आर मेंटेनिंग द गॉडेस इन टर्म्स ऑफ फीमेल, बट व्हेन रियल फीमेल्स की बारी आती है वी आर ट्रीटिंग देम जस्ट लाइक अ इनसिग्निफिकेंट फैमिली मेंबर. दैट शुड नॉट बी ट्रीटेड. दैट मस्ट बी टेकन केयर ऑफ. So the final is demographic transition. Basically, the year 1921 was held to be the year of demographic transition that led to the extensive rise of the population. Before 1921, there was a very least rise in the population. So the demographic transformation, we can say, the rise in population take place after 1920s when the facility of medical was started giving a motive to the rise. And when the facility was rising out at that time, the demographic transformation had taken place in 1921, and after it, the growth of population has seems to be quite good. So this is whole of the platform that can explain the Indian economy on the eve of independence. This is all the whole of the chapter is all about. There are some positive issues also that the government has left India. When the British government has left India, they have given some positive effects to it also. For example, they introduced the railways. Now it is being surveyed as one of the biggest platform in India, biggest transportation system in India, biggest infrastructure and communication facility in India. Today we have a very largest base of railways, of passenger also as well as for goods transformation also. Again, you can say when the workers are forced for commercialization of crops, the commercialization of crops again led to the monetary lucrative mode of profit to the people or farmers. Now farmers are very interested in growing textile-based products or allied activities or organic farming, so that they also may get a huge amount of profit besides cropping wage goods. Then we can say, with respect to barter system, Britishers introduced monetary exchange system that led to benefit of exchange. So we can say now we India are very well equipped in dealing with the monetary system of exchange, and preferably we are progressing a lot. That's why our India is converting ourselves from underdeveloped to developing, and now we are going to enter into the segment of developed, since we have seen a huge amount of progress during all these years, right? So we can say Indian industrialization have been left a lot of legacy that have been developed by the British government in their offices, channel of operations. They all left into this India, and we have occupied them, and we have made our channel of offices, our government offices on them, over them, right? So these are some of the positive effects that have that have been undertaken by or received by India after the leaving of British government from India. So at the time of independence, these are the major issues that we need to discuss with you. So So this is the chapter that we have received with you. In the next chapter, we are going to have the 5-year plans, and we will move ahead from 1947 to 1990 development experience. Fine. So till then, thank you so much, students. We will see you very soon. See you.